The late period of Egypt, 672 BCE, 332 BCE, was a time of turmoil and power struggles between major empires in the region. After being conquered by the Assyrians, Egypt was no longer the autonomous power it once was. However, the Assyrians had no long-term plans for direct rule. Instead, they appointed local vassals known as the Scythe kings of the 26th dynasty. In 653 BCE, a major turning point occurred. King Psamtik IV of the Scythe line seized the opportunity to restore Egypt's independence, while the Assyrians were locked in a brutal war with Elam and had only a small force stationed in Egypt. With the help of the Lydians and Greek mercenaries, who would later form Egypt's first navy, Psamtik succeeded in freeing Egypt from Assyrian control. Despite this, he and his successors remained cautious, maintaining peaceful relations with Assyria. During this time, Greek influence expanded rapidly, and the city of Naucratis became a major Greek settlement in the Nile Delta. By 609 BCE, Psamtik's son, Necho II, decided to intervene in the escalating conflict that saw the rise of Babylon, the Chaldeans, the Medes, and the Scythians. Hoping to save the crumbling Assyrian Empire, once an ally, Necho II launched a campaign northward. But he arrived too late. Nineveh had already fallen, and the Assyrian king Sin-Sharishkun was dead. Necho defeated the forces of Josiah, the king of Judah, but he and the remaining Assyrian troops suffered defeat at Haran, and later at the decisive Battle of Carchemish in 605 BCE, crushed by the combined might of Babylon, the Medes, and the Scythians. Despite this defeat, Egypt continued its struggle for influence in the Levant for several decades, clashing with Babylonian kings like Nabopolassar and Nebuchadnezzar II. Ultimately, however, Egypt was slowly pushed back. In 567 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar II even launched an invasion of Egypt itself, signaling the waning power of the Scythe dynasty. Yet, the Sate period, centered in the new capital at Sais, did witness a short-lived revival in Egypt's economy and culture. But in 525 BCE, a new and powerful threat emerged. Cambyses II, king of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, invaded Egypt and defeated Pharaoh Psamtik III at the Battle of Pelusium. Egypt fell swiftly. Cambyses declared himself pharaoh but ruled from afar, in his capital at Susa in Persia, modern-day Iran, delegating control of Egypt to a Persian satrap, governor. Throughout the 5th century BCE, several rebellions against Persian rule broke out. Some saw short-term success, but Egypt never fully freed itself from Persian domination. After being incorporated into the Achaemenid Empire, Egypt, along with Cyprus and Phoenicia, modern-day Lebanon, became part of the empire's 6th satrapy. The first phase of Persian rule, known as the 27th dynasty, ended in 402 BCE. From 380 to 343 BCE, Egypt experienced its last era of native rule under the 30th dynasty, with King Nectanebo II as its final sovereign. But independence would not last. The Persians returned, re-establishing their rule in what is sometimes referred to as the 31st dynasty. Then came the year 332 BCE, a defining moment. As Alexander the Great advanced across the known world, the Persian satrap of Egypt, Majestic, offered no resistance. Instead, he surrendered the land to the Macedonian conqueror. And so began a new chapter in Egypt's history, the Hellenistic era, under Alexander the Great and his successors from the Ptolemaic dynasty. In 332 BCE, a pivotal moment changed the fate of Egypt forever. Alexander the Great entered the land without facing significant resistance from the Persian Empire. Instead of opposition, the Egyptians welcomed him as a hero, a liberator. And so began a new era, the Hellenistic period of Egypt. After Alexander's death, his vast empire was divided among his generals. In Egypt, the Ptolemaic dynasty, descendants of Macedonian generals, rose to power. They established their capital in Alexandria, which soon became not just a political center, but the beating heart of culture and knowledge. The Library of Alexandria gained fame throughout the ancient world, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, guided ships into the bustling, prosperous harbor. Although the Ptolemies were of Greek origin, they did not seek to erase Egypt's native culture. On the contrary, they embraced it. They built temples in traditional Egyptian style, supported ancient religious practices, and even portrayed themselves as pharaohs to gain the loyalty of the people. Over time, a unique cultural fusion emerged. Greek and Egyptian gods merged into new deities like Serapis, and Greek sculpture began to reflect traditional Egyptian motifs. However, peace didn't last forever. After the death of Ptolemy IV, instability began to take hold. Rebellions from native Egyptians, internal power struggles, and dissatisfaction among the people of Alexandria shook the foundations of the dynasty. Meanwhile, the Roman Empire, now heavily reliant on grain imports from Egypt, started to pay close attention to the region. With ongoing revolts, political ambition, and threats from powerful rivals in the Near East, Rome saw no choice but to intervene. Eventually, Roman forces entered Egypt, transforming this once royal land of the Pharaohs into a province of the mighty Roman Empire. During the Roman period, Egypt became an important province of the vast empire starting from 30 BCE, after Octavian, who later became Emperor Augustus, defeated Marcus Antonius and Queen Cleopatra VII at the Battle of Actium. Egypt was the main supplier of grain for Rome, making it a strategically vital land that Rome tightly controlled. The Roman army, under governors appointed by the emperor, frequently suppressed uprisings, enforced heavy taxation, and prevented widespread banditry, which had become a significant problem during this time. The city of Alexandria grew increasingly bustling, becoming a major trading hub that connected the empire with the East, bringing exotic luxury goods highly prized by the people of Rome. Although the Romans often held a more hostile attitude toward the Egyptians compared to the Greeks, many ancient Egyptian traditions, such as mummification and worship of traditional gods, continued. A distinctive feature of this era was the flourishing Fayum mummy portrait art, which skillfully blended Egyptian and Roman cultures. Some Roman emperors even portrayed themselves as pharaohs, though not to the same extent as the Ptolemaic rulers before them. However, from the mid-1st century onward, Christianity began to take root in Egypt. Initially seen as a potentially acceptable religion, Christianity soon became a force that challenged the traditional polytheistic beliefs of both Egyptian and Greco-Roman religions. This led to harsh persecutions of Christians, peaking with the Great Purge initiated by Emperor Diocletian in 303 CE. By 391 CE, Emperor Theodosius issued an edict banning all polytheistic rituals and ordered the closure of pagan temples, escalating religious upheaval in Egypt. In Alexandria, a major riot broke out, with public destruction of polytheistic religious images, marking the gradual disappearance of Egypt's indigenous religious culture. Although the native people continued to speak their language in daily life, the ability to read ancient hieroglyphs declined as the priests and priestesses of Egyptian temples lost their influence. Many ancient temples were converted into Christian churches or abandoned in the desert, signaling the end of a long-standing era of religious and cultural tradition in Roman Egypt.